Wayne Perro here with Andre. Today we're talking about pinch hitting. Happens all the time in the game. What's your thoughts on pinch hitting?
Well, I'm for it, and I'm also against it. So I'm against it, especially if we're talking kids in development. I saw too many coaches every time the game's on the line and their weakest batter is up, then they're going to remove him in favor of a pinch hitter. But at the end of the day, if little Johnny or little Susie is in development, it's good for him or for her to experience having success late in the game and maybe have a chance for their team to win based on their performance. So that's the reason why I'm against. But I'm for it also at a higher level when it's more competition oriented, where it becomes a tactic slash strategy tool for coaches as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the tactics and the strategy
Right.
for pinch hitting. What are the considerations that you have in mind when you're thinking about pinch hitting?
But I think that the where you are in the game will also help you make the decision, whether it is something that you plan ahead of time or something you adjust because something happened during the course of the game. So if it's planned, then before the inning starts, you can make those changes in your dugout, on your lineup. Also, make your announcement and make sure that the kids know ahead of time. And sometimes you're going to have to adjust. Clear example is the change pitcher on the other side, lefty's coming, and you want to use a right-handed batter at that time. That's something you could do also. Or for whatever reason, you were trailing by 4 or 5 runs, and then suddenly you're back in the game, and you feel that there's a better opportunity with using a pinch hitter versus the batter that is going to hit.
So let's talk a little bit about the player that you're taking out of the game. How do you manage that player?
Right. And I think the philosophy should not be that we're taking a hitter, we don't want that hitter to hit, but we would prefer another one to hit instead. Okay, that's a difference for me. And I think you need to explain also at some point, maybe not on the spot because you're managing your game, but it could be a good way also to explain to that hitter why you decided to replace him or her with someone else.
So how does past history come into play when you're bringing a player in to hit for another player?
Yeah, that's very important also because you might have been in a situation where your new batter have experienced success against a pitcher that is on the mound on the particular day. That's going to trigger you to might want to use him again or her again in that type of situation. So that's something that comes to mind also when it's time to make those decisions.
How do you feel about lefty and righty matchups when you're bringing in a pinch hitter?
Well, it's something to consider. I think it's the lefty pitcher matchup with a righty. I think to me is more important than the other way around. But at the end of the day, that's something you should consider for sure. If you cannot make that matchup, not the end of the world. Like we've seen the left-handed batter having success against lefty pitcher and vice versa. But that's something you could consider as well.
Yeah, I think the actual history between the pitcher and that batter that you're bringing in is more important.
Way more important.
Yeah.
And maybe one last thing, before we let this one go, is let's try to avoid having a hitter goes all the way to home plate and then signal to the umpire and hey, by the way, I'm going to make a change, and then that little kid has to walk back. So let's try to avoid that as far as trying to create self-confidence, self-esteem.
Yeah, coaches, think about how you're going to manage pinch hit situations. Play into the favor of your strengths, either at the plate or the player that you're bringing in.
And development versus competition.
Absolutely.